toxic roommate changed the apartment locks and texted me her boyfriend was taking my room. I didn't bang on the door or call the cops. I just calmly replied, "Enjoy," and called the landlord to officially terminate my lease. Chloe was a nightmare wrapped in entitlement. I found her through a roommate app when I needed help covering rent. She seemed normal for exactly 2 weeks. Then the real Chloe surfaced, dishes piled in the sink for days, music at midnight, passive-aggressive notes on the fridge about shared energy in the space. I tolerated it because rent was expensive and I didn't have time for drama. Then Derek appeared, Chloe's boyfriend. He started staying over weekends. Weekends became weekdays. By month 3, he had a gaming setup in the living room, his clothes in the hallway closet, and his name on our Wi-Fi network. He didn't pay rent. He didn't buy groceries. He sat on my couch in his boxers playing video games while I worked 12-hour shifts. When I confronted Chloe about it, she shrugged and said, "He's basically living here. Deal with it." What Chloe never understood and never bothered to ask about was the lease. The master lease was in my name, only my name. Chloe was an unlisted subletter who paid me her share through Venmo. No formal agreement, no addendum filed with the landlord. Legally, she was my guest. Derek was a guest of a guest. The apartment belonged to me on paper, and neither of them had a single document proving otherwise. I came home on a Thursday evening after a brutal shift. I put my key in the lock. It didn't turn. I tried again. Different lock. Brand new deadbolt, silver and shiny, installed that afternoon. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Hey, Derek is taking your room. We need the space. Find somewhere else to live. Already changed the lock, so don't bother." I stood in the hallway staring at my phone. For about 10 seconds, something hot and sharp rose in my chest. Then it cooled completely. I walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and typed 2 words: "Enjoy." I hit send. Then I called my landlord. I explained everything calmly. Unauthorized occupant, changed locks without permission. I told him I wanted to exercise the early termination clause in my lease effective immediately. He was furious, not at me, at the situation. Changing locks without landlord authorization was a direct violation. I drove to his office that evening, signed the termination paperwork, and paid the fee. The apartment was now legally vacant. My lease was dissolved, which meant Chloe and Derek were no longer subletter and guest. They were 2 unauthorized individuals occupying a unit with no active lease, behind locks they had illegally installed. They were trespassers. The landlord filed a criminal trespassing complaint with the county sheriff's office the following morning. I crashed on my friend's couch and waited. Chloe texted me twice over those 2 days, smug, victorious messages. "You should have been nicer." And Derek says, "Thanks for leaving your shelf organizer." I didn't respond to either. I just let the clock tick. Saturday morning, I drove back to the apartment complex and parked across the street. At exactly 10 a.m., 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled into the lot. The landlord met them at the building entrance with the termination paperwork and the trespassing complaint. They walked upstairs. I leaned against my car and sipped iced coffee. I heard the knock from the parking lot, then voices. Then Chloe's voice, shrill, confused, escalating. The door opened. A deputy stepped inside. 3 minutes later, Chloe was escorted out in handcuffs, barefoot, wearing a hoodie and pajama shorts, screaming that she lived there. Derek followed, hands cuffed behind his back, silent, staring at the ground. The landlord entered afterward with a locksmith to remove the unauthorized deadbolt. Maintenance began carrying unauthorized belongings to the curb, garbage bags of clothes. Derek's gaming console placed on the concrete like a discarded toy. Chloe's ring light and tripod laid across the sidewalk. Chloe saw me from the cruiser's backseat. Our eyes met through the window. She wasn't smug anymore. She wasn't victorious. She was pale, mascara streaked, and finally understanding what had happened. She had locked me out of my own apartment and handed me the legal justification to erase her existence from it entirely. I raised my iced coffee, took a sip, and drove home to my friend's couch, where I slept better than I had in months. She changed the locks. I changed her legal status. One of those costs about $40 at the hardware store. The other comes with a criminal record.